Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another NDI November segment. We're about halfway through NDI November. We have more shows tomorrow, and then we have more shows next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we're about halfway there. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, feel free to head on over to ndinovember.com and watch there. That is where we have our polls and our questions, and you will be entered for your chance to win one of our great prizes. We have some VizRT training. We have a bird dog camera. We have a PTZ Optics camera that we're giving away. And the only way that you can get that is if you are registered at ndinovember.com. So today, like I said a few minutes ago, we have a great lineup of shows available for you today. First off is going to be a conversation that Glenn Seaman from our workflow sales specialist team did with Laurent from NETGEAR. We have been talking about NETGEAR throughout this whole event, and so why not do a great demo showing off the great features that are available in Engage. And they even talked about some brand new features that were announced just a couple days ago, and give a little bit of a demo on that. So we're gonna have that interview go for you now.
Hey, welcome to NDI November 2025. I'm Glenn Seaman. I'm the head of sales engineering over at Broadfield, and today we are joined by Laurent from NETGEAR. If anybody knows me, you know how much I love NETGEAR, how much I love the Pro AV switches. Reason I love it is our #1 problem solver. I ship so many out just to make problems go away, and they don't come back. And I think that's the thing that I love. And I'm gonna let Laurent go into why NETGEAR for anything dealing with AV over IP is hands down the best solution to go with, why they are so far ahead of everybody else in the industry, and again, why they're my favorite problem solver. So I'm gonna let you take it away, Laurent. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
All right, Glenn, thank you very much, and thank you for having me and having NETGEAR AV. So I'm Laurent. I'm running the product management NETGEAR for NETGEAR AV for a long time, and I'm very happy to take you through that. So my initial introduction, Glenn, is that first you can interrupt me when you want. I'm French and I'm used to it, and I'm talking from Paris right now. Second, I just want to spend 10 minutes on the slides because what matters really today, you and I are going to configure a 200-port network for NDI, but we are going to also do the comms and the lighting and the ArtNet and the SSEN with it, and we are going to do it in less than 10 minutes too. All right? So if you're accepting that challenge, let's go.
I'm
And
not accepting the challenge. You're doing it, so the challenge is on you. But yes, and I think that's a huge point too. Is the reality is, and this is why again NETGEAR is so great. Is you know it started with one AV over IP device on a network, and then suddenly there's another device, and there's another device, and you just hit it. You're doing video, you're doing lighting, you're doing audio. There's more and more things flooding into your AV over IP network, and again, you're going to go over why NETGEAR is the choice.
yeah, thank you.
So
But I want to share the pain a little bit with you. So that's why you're going to help me. Let's go. So, yeah, we started 15 years ago in NETGEAR. And now, you see, we have some kind of a business unit with NETGEAR AV in the NETGEAR Enterprise segment of our organization. And what we did over the years is that we stayed hungry for knowledge, but we wanted to adapt our IT switches for AV and not the other way around. So that's why we helped co-found some of those alliances, and the rest of the time we became a member with the chair at those alliances to understand the pain points and try to adapt our AV switchers so that we can do a good job instead of trying to convince all these great AV companies to change their products. And it worked. So 15 years later, my slide is not even, up to date anymore. I don't have enough space. We just have more than 500 certifications right now published on netgear.com/AV. So this is how we spent our whole time in 15 years. One by one, you can see the entire NDI ecosystem in there. One by one, we offer a certification process to those companies, taking the equipment in, even if they are bulky and big, And also, of course, we are lending the NETGEAR AV switches, and until we can break everything out and get the perfect configuration and get eliminating all the bugs, that you can find, then we go live and we publish the certification. The NETGEAR Pro AV design team is trained, and we can offer the technical support to the customers, to the channel of those manufacturers. And this is how we got there. So the transition to AV over IP was really difficult 15, 20 years ago, if you remember. But by now, we can say that it's actually getting easier, and NETGEAR AV probably participated to that. And there's no exception for AV over IP from broadcast and live events. This is where NDI shines very well, very often by now. But also in the enterprise, also in the medical AV, residential AV, education, there's no exception. AV over IP is everywhere, and AV over IP requires a good AV fabric. So now I can accelerate because I am going to demo all that. I'll take, because again, we started 20 years ago with CLI and IGMP and QoS, and it was hard. So we totally reinvented the software. We now have an operating system that is called the NETGEAR AV OS with the AV user interface, with an Engage controller that spans across the entire AV network. And this way we could simplify AV over IP with a lot of automation. So NETGEAR AV, this is a good set of hardware switchers. I'm going to demo the software with you. And don't forget the service and the support, because without, you can do everything you want with good hardware and software. A lot of installations require support. So the NETGEAR Pro AV design team is here to the rescue. This is the switch portfolio now, and I won't spend time here. I think everybody knows by now that the M4250s at NETGEAR are pretty good for the AV racks. The ports are in the back. We can reverse the switches the way you want though, but they look good in AV installations. But this is really good for audio and for compressed video. So NDI is good too. Of course, we have the 10G uplinks in between the switches. But when you have a more sizable installation with potentially hundreds, if not thousands of endpoints, then you are reaching the limits, with only 4250s. That's why we have more enterprise class platforms with M4350s, the latest generation that starts at 1G and go all the way to the 100 gigabit Ethernet. And the glue in between all that is, of course, the Engage software, the Engage controller that we are going to demo. Because when you are using it with the AV user interface on every device, you forget about the hardware platforms because all the features are the same, all the switches behave the same, and there's virtually zero difference between any of those switches. I won't be complete without saying that because we have our Engage 2.0 this year in 2025, we can not only support AV switchers, but we can also add some more NETGEAR products into the AV networks. The first one is the Pro router, the PR460X, a lovely, cost-effective small router that looks good in the rack. Actually, this is the same case as my M4250s. Maybe you can recognize that. And it's always good to have a router in Engage because you can host services in there for DHCP, for Mac reservations. You're going to see that. Also for the Bonjour gateway, so that you can replicate Bonjour in between the VLANs should you need. And Glenn, when you have a mobile crew that goes from one location to another, you're never really sure what internet you're going to get, what line you're going to get. But with such a router on the one port, you take what you get, And on the LAN side, everything is dynamic in Engage. There is zero configuration from one gig to another. And last but not the least, let me speak about Wi-Fi a little bit. Although, keep me honest, I'm a switch guy. But Engage 2.0 now supports the NETGEAR Wi-Fi 7 access points that you see on the bottom right. So the 2x2, the 718, and the 3x3, 758, those Wi-Fi 7 access points are great. Usually, NETGEAR uses the NETGEAR Inside Cloud for enterprise Wi-Fi deployments. But now we can onboard the Wi-Fi 7, the 718, 758 APs into a site in Engage so that we can do a little bit of Wi-Fi 2. So that we can do a control for the touch panels. And you have, Glenn, I believe, also the very first Wi-Fi NDI endpoints, such as cameras. Yeah, see? So
Just happen to have it sitting at my desk.
yeah. Yeah, so this is, our first venture into the AV over Wi-Fi. But with NDI, we also have already some very good installations. One of them is the NASDAQ. Did you know they are doing NDI top to bottom? If you get interviewed, Glenn, at the NASDAQ, you'll see that this is on NETGEAR AV line for switchers and NETGEAR AV Wi-Fi access points, those ones, and everything over the air. You just don't want to put too many cameras on the access points. That's all for now.
No, I think that's a great thing too, and I know you're heading into Engage, so this is a great little segue, and you've been leaving me little pauses to interject, but I knew you wanted to get through these slides, so I've been holding it in. But, Wi-Fi is one of those things, and I have a NETGEAR, Pro AV switch. I have one of the NETGEAR Wi-Fi access points, and that's always been an issue, is I can't, I have to go to different screens, different panes of glass to control one over the other. So bringing that into Engage is great. And you're going to do your Engage demo now, and I want to talk to people about Engage, because for most people that are used to the NETGEAR, and I've got demos out there, everybody's got demos of showing how easy it is to set up a single NETGEAR switch to do an AV over IP format. And a lot of people don't even think about Engage, because Engage really, it shines, and you're going to show 200 switches, you're going to show all these different things, that's where it shines. But there's some simple things, and I know you're going to show one of my favorite things, which is DHCP reservations. There's some things that Engage brings you even to a single switch environment. And really, this is another area where NETGEAR got smart. Okay, in a switch, there's only so much you can do and control in a switch to be a switch. NETGEAR realized people want to do these other things, so that's kind of where I'm speaking out of term here, but that's kind of where Engage came from. Is it's a separate piece of software that allows you to set up and manage the switch in ways that you can't do from a switch firmware on its own. Did I do that justice?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and this is only the beginning, Glenn. This is only the beginning. NETGEAR is a public company. I cannot, tell you what's coming next. I mean, but you'll see under the Christmas tree and early next year at ISC in Barcelona, we have great things coming in Engage. So you're right. Everything we couldn't do on the switchers, we just do it in Engage moving forward. That's absolutely right. All right. So Engage. The demo, we are going to do it now. It's a software that runs on Windows or Mac. For now, stay tuned. We are going to do even better soon. But right now, this is a free of charge application that you just install on a PC like me, like Windows or a Mac. And this is a single pane of glass from now on for the AV switchers, for the routers, and for the access points, and all the great features that we have invented, because we learned so much about pain points in AV installations, misconfiguration, wrong cables, wrong links, when you are missing some VLAN tags in between switchers. Engage does it for you with scale. And don't forget the support that you are entitled to. As soon as you are working with Broadfield, you are doing an AV project and you are using NETGEAR AV for your fabric with the switchers or access points and wireless, you get access for free to the NETGEAR Pro AV design team. 99.9% of the problems, the issues, the escalations that come to us are solved on the very same day. Okay.
And I have a great first off, the Pro AV service is phenomenal. That is, again, once you get into the NETGEAR Pro AV family, those folks are there to help you and support you. And they are worldwide. The story I always tell people is I had a Thanksgiving weekend where I decided to work with a customer and reconfigure a network. I started the call on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Obviously, the US team shut down, easily transitioned to the UK team. They took me through the whole thing and we transitioned back to the US team on Friday. But again, it was great. Really super helpful folks. And again, it doesn't usually take that long. That was a long, detailed thing we were going through, but just how great and seamless that was is a great tout to how good those teams are.
Thank you, Glenn. And this is my last slide, and then we are going to switch to the Engage controller. But don't forget, you can get very good curriculum, and I know the Broadfield customers, especially when we are doing this NDI November week. You are very hungry for knowledge, so we spend a lot of time, everything we learn, because we stay hungry too. Everything we learn, we organize the NETGEAR Academy with it, okay? So you can get CTS credits. It's not only for AV, you can get actually very good courses on IT too, but for the AV, you have level 1, level 2, AV switching, very good curriculums. But not only that, you have the partnerships that we have with many AV manufacturers. You will find their curriculums directly on the NETGEAR Academy. So academy.netgear.com. All right. So we are going now to switch to the NETGEAR Engage, Glenn. So it's not difficult. I'm running right now this on my Windows 11 PC, and it's a trauma for me. I was under Windows 10 until very recently, but my IT, they forced me to to change that, and now I need to learn everything again. So it's Windows 11, but I'm running the NETGEAR Engage 2.3.1.8. And it's a fantastic thing because this is the brand new release that will be available today, later today on the servers. So all the Windows, all the Engage platforms around the world will tell you, oh, there is an update available. Do you want to upgrade? So this is what I'm demoing, okay? It's going to be live in approximately 5 hours from now. And on Engage, we manipulate the sites. It's like when you have Microsoft Excel, you have several workbooks. So with Engage, you have several sites. So on my Engage here, on my computer, I have only one site, but I could obviously create additional sites and I can export, import, and I can exchange sites with you, Glenn, for instance. All right. So I'm using one site called the IMIE Site Lab here because I'm in France, and you can go from one site to the other using the little drop down. On Engage, what is happening is that as soon as you plug a NETGEAR AV line switcher or a Wi-Fi access point, Wi-Fi 7 that's compatible, or a router, you're going to discover it. You will onboard this equipment. And when you are onboarding it, all of a sudden, in Engage, you have those devices, in your device list. And we spoke about the NETGEAR AV user interface. If I go to one of those switches and if I click Configure, then I have the AV UI of that switch. The same thing that I get if I go to a browser and enter the IP address of that switch, all right? So it means that I can still, do a few things here and there if I need to, but obviously this is not how we want to use Engage. We don't want to configure the switches one by one, okay? What we want to do is really much do the AV network globally. So when the switches are in, you have the topology, You have a lot of different small views, different types of views, but personally, I like the physical view that I set default because the physical view tells me which ports, Glenn, are used in between the switches, and this is actually pretty good to know. So with the NETGEAR Engage, you don't configure, the link aggregations or the VLAN tagging, as I said, because as soon as you connect a link in between the switches, everything is automatic for you. You can put up to 8 links in between switches, as many VLANs and profiles you want. Everything will be dynamically shared across the switches. Enough talking. Let me show you, Glenn, where we want to configure everything. This is under the site settings. So again, you have a bunch of switches. So I have more than 250 ports combined across the board here. But under the site settings, we at first have a default unique VLAN, out of the box called the VLAN 1, all right? And together, we are going to build on that and set up a brand new NDI network together, all right? But first thing first, in order to have a good AV network, you want good foundations. And the good foundations in a network is what we call the management VLAN, all right? So you can move your management VLAN from VLAN 1 to something else if you don't like it, but the management VLAN must be rock solid. So the first thing to do is, for instance, to put a static IP address on the interface of the management VLAN 1 on the switches so that nothing can happen. Maybe you can lose your DHCP server, whatever. Personally, I like to set my static IPs for my management VLAN. When it's done, you can go back to the profiles and start working on the VLAN 1 because this VLAN 1 is available for you to do AV2. So personally, what I am doing on the VLAN 1, this is my comms. I edit the VLAN 1 and I'm selecting a profile that is in Engage that is called AES67. Okay, so that's the SMPTE ST2110-30. AES67, where the models that can do boundary clock do it. But this is also for the edge when you have other 4250 switches that can do that. And then we are going to automatically do transparent clock. So BC and TC dynamically in your VLAN, in the VLAN 1, so that we can do all the communications. And as you know, without comms, we cannot really have a show, right? So this is what I'm doing with the VLAN 1. I'm doing my comms and I let it this way. For the sake of the demo, I'm going to show you that I already have another VLAN called the VLAN 10. Let's review that super fast. I'm using a template called lighting. So SACN, ArtNet, and MANNet, in particular the MANNet 3. All those protocols and codecs are supported. So this is for the fixtures, all the lighting equipment. Next, I said I want a VLAN 10 with the yellow color for lights, And for the Wi-Fi, you can actually say, yeah, I want to do Wi-Fi on that VLAN 10. I want to place some Wi-Fi devices on the global site SSID. And I created a shared multiple PSK, so a group with a password called remotes123%, so that when the devices connect to the global site, they will land in VLAN 10. And I isolate this group from other Wi-Fi groups so that they don't get burdened by MDNS, whatever. All right. And then in Engage, you have your topology. So when you are finalizing your VLAN 10 for the lighting, you see your topology. Usually we don't configure anything at the core. This is the center, this is the fiber switch, so you don't connect anything directly to it. So you let it alone. But on the switchers, we actually tell which ports we want for the yellow VLAN 10, right? So right now I'm using the 8 first ports, but you know what? Let's unselect some ports, okay? And just keep 1, 2, 3, 4 for the first switch. A little bit like Excel, you can actually take this port count and select all the other switches so that you can go fast. I like symmetry personally. So I'm going to do my lighting on the left on the first 4 ports. Okay, so now I have some more space for my NDI. So you click apply and boom, all the devices are now configured and ready to accept your lighting equipment on the first 4 ports across the network. I'm going to save. All the configuration has been sent to the switches, right? So Engage can be shut down, actually, all right? So all the switches have the config now. And if you agree, Glenn, we are going to set up a new profile together because we want to have an NDI installation, okay, together. So we are going to add a new profile. We are going to select a template. And for NDI, well, between you and me, you can use many profiles and make NDI work just fine, okay? But for the sake of the demonstration, I am going to use the profile called NDI 5/6 with Dante Q6 or AES67. So this is a very much all-round NDI profile, okay? And usually very successful. We are going to call it the NDI week profile. Let's set up a VLAN ID, a new one, the VLAN 20. We are more than optimistic. We are going to select the green color. And by the way, the latest generation of the 4350s that were introduced in June, they have an external RGB light, physically under the ports. So when you do green on the screen, then the switches will show you the green color, on those ports. So that's pretty cool.
And
All right.
what's cool about it, and at first I was kind of like, oh, that's gimmicky, but once I started thinking about it, the cool thing is you're setting it up. You can then go tell somebody, okay, go plug this cable into any of the green ports, and you're good.
Yeah.
And it is actually a very neat feature.
Yeah. So we are going to create multiple PSK, a group, all right, for the NDI cameras, because we want to do some NDI. I saw you got one. So let's say a NDI Wi-Fi 123%, so that I'm meeting the requirements. I think you need to have 8 characters and some specials. And I am going to isolate those cameras. It's very important. It's not, the cameras will be in the VLAN 20, right? Everybody will access them and the cameras will access the whole VLAN 20. But I am isolating that group from other groups on the Wi-Fi networks so that if needed, my cameras won't get hurt, by some other traffic. And it's a very good feature, especially for the touch panels, so that they can go sleep mode, because if not, they cannot sleep and the battery is drained. All right. So I'm adding this group for the cameras. Next, we are going to do the layer 2. So the layer 2 is the ports, right? Which ports? So let's start with the first switch up there. We have the blue, that's the VLAN 1. We have the yellow, this is the VLAN 10 for lighting. Let's select ports after the port 4. Let's select 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 6 ports on that switch. And because we want to go fast, we are going to copy paste that port count everywhere but at the core on all other switches. All right, so that all other switches, they have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I do that because I know that I have room, okay, on all the switches. And you have your information right there. All right, so I'm happy with that. I will apply and I will say, yes, I want to create the VLAN 20 that way. And now, Glenn, I know you are interested in that because when I do a VLAN, it's layer 2. So I only have ports in a layer 2 VLAN. But now we want to go layer 3. Of course, I could stop there. Okay, I could say, no, I don't do layer 3. But if I don't do layer 3, then all my cameras are going to have those, link local 169.254 addresses, and then you cannot route. You can go across the VLANs for control, and it's very messy. I don't know what you think. So personally, I like DHCP because this way I have proper IP addresses. So now that the layer 2 is done, we go layer 3. And we are going to have the topology again. And this time, we are going to select the core switch. So this is my center of the network. I will say, you know what? This is going to be my core, this one. I want to do the DHCP server there, the wiring, the query, everything. And we are going to now, pardon me, go up and say that we want to do wiring on the other switches so that the VLAN 20 will have a wiring interface on every switch, right? So this is how we can actually prepare, help engage, set the stage. So now the VLAN 20 and the VLAN wiring and the DHCP server is provisioned. I already have my check box here for DHCP server for the core switch. Of course, we need a static IP address, right, on that core switch. So let's do a 192.168.20.1. Always select 1 for the core switch, .1. Why? Because this way the query election will make that switch win, okay? You want to facilitate that because that's your most high performance switch, usually the core switch. And to go fast, I will set DHCP client for all the other switches on the network. So all the other switches will get a DHCP address, all right, for now. And then on Engage, you have that ready here. The router for the clients will be the 20.1. I will start my pool at 100, and I will finish it at 200. I will say that my search domain is NETGEAR, whatever. If I want to have some DNSs, because I want to do internet, I need to enter that here, but we can actually ask Engage to do it automatically. We'll do it later. So to recap, .1, 20.1 on the core switch, everybody else DHCP client, and my DHCP server starting at 100, finish up at 200, all right? You click apply, you say yes, and this time all that layer 3 configuration has been sent. As I speak, it's being sent to the network, all right? So we are going to save it, and all the switches now are configured. So, recapitulating, we have now a green VLAN 20 for NDI, Dante Q6 and AES67, all right? If I go to one of those devices, one of them, if I click the configure button, I should see it, see? I should see 6 ports that are green, ready to go, all right? And because this is an access switch, I do not do my DHCP server here. I'm doing my DHCP server on the core switch. So the last piece of the demo, and I know, Glenn, you're like me, the one bad thing about DHCP is that it's a little random, the DHCP addresses. And when you do NDI, especially with the cameras for the PTZ, you need to have the same IP addresses all the time because it's fixed, right? The way you configure the buttons and the joysticks. So I'm not a AV pro, but I learned that. So in my VLAN 20, I am going to do something that only Engage can do because the switches can do that very well. I am going to configure the DHCP addresses. So see how we want to simplify the experience of, you know, the AV over IP networking. We make it very easy. You go to your VLAN wiring section. This is where we just did that. You go under DHCP address reservation, and here for the VLAN 20, but you can do that on the other VLANs too, of course, I am going to add some statics. So if you already have your cameras plugged in, you will see them here. Right now, I do not have any camera plugged in, but I have my other switches, VLAN 20 interfaces plugged in, right? So that's why I see some of those already, and I can actually then statically, if you wish, fix or stabilize the IP address. But usually this is not how I do. You can do another way, you can do your manual way, but I have much better for you. You can actually, instead of that, import a file, you know, and browse for on your computer. So if you do an Excel file that you save as a .csv with your camera max and your camera desired IP in that subnet, then you can upload right there, and then you can have all your reservations in Engage, and one switch, because right now I'm doing my DHCP server on the core switch, can have something like 250 of them, okay? But if you move the DHCP server to the router, then you're no limit. You can do dozens of thousands of them. Okay? All right.
And this is a great thing. And this was, you know, one of the things I like to talk about because so many people in the NDI world, but so many people in the networking world too, just love fixed IPs. And it's great. And I'm one of those. I like to look at a device and say, oh, that's 192.168.100.15. I know what that is. You know, but you know, first off, NDI prefers to have DHCP. It prefers to have something that manages the traffic to it. The other thing too is if you put fixed IP addresses on a device, because you can physically go into any device and have a fixed IP address, that's great until you take it somewhere else. And then you got to remember, oh, I've got to get into it. So, you know, doing DHCP reservations gives you that best of both worlds is I will always know what the IP address of that camera is.
Yeah.
And I can move it to another area without having to reset it. You know, you went into a lot of detail and a lot of stuff and you know, for people that know networking, this is great. For people that don't know networking, you're saying layer 2, layer 3, oh my God, my head's going to explode. The thing I want to bring them back to is what's beautiful about the NETGEAR Engage and the NETGEAR switches is if you don't know what that means, it doesn't matter. It's very visual, it's very easy. You don't know that you just configured something on a layer 3. All you know is you just assigned everybody a DHCP address. And that's again what makes the NETGEAR Pro AV platform, the AVOS and Engage so very powerful is if you know what you're doing, because you're an IT professional, you can do a lot of things. If you don't know what you're doing, you can do a lot of things and not hurt yourself. But you know, to recap too, what you just did, which is mind blowing, is not everybody has, you know, 10, 20 NETGEAR switches at their disposal. Most people might have a few, but the beauty is, you know, instead of having to go into this web GUI and then this window and having to have 3 web pages open up for my 3 different switches and saying, okay, this one's going to be this, within one click or a couple of clicks, you said, okay, great. All of my NETGEAR switches, all of my Pro AV switches, I now have half my ports or 4 of my ports being NDI and the other 4 being this. That's beautiful. That's fast. That's time saving, and it's going to allow anybody that's managing these systems to focus more on other things, more on the creative end, more on all these other things, as opposed to having to go to all these different pages and do it. And that's really powerful. It's a very cool demo.
Well, thank you, Glenn. And if I may, I can actually give you another reason why you want to go DHCP with static MAC reservations instead of fixed static IPs, because it's prone to mistakes all the time. And I cannot tell you how many times we are contacted by the NETGEAR Pro AV design team, like, hey, my controller or my production server or my vMix or whatever doesn't see the device, or you can see it, but I cannot manage it, cannot connect to it. And you know, very often the first reaction we have is like, can you disconnect that device? Oh, done. Can you ping it? And guess what? You have some, you know, because you have duplicates, you know, and it's always. So static IPs, this is the best enemy. And a DHCP organization with the DHCP server and static MAC reservations, that's the way to go, much better. Although, personally, my only exception is my VLAN 1, my management VLAN. I like it to be static. Yeah.
Well, and that's important because you always need to be able to know that I can get to that's the one thing you need to always know and guarantee how to get to, and that it's never it's not gonna change, and that it's standing on its own. It's the key to your front door, basically.
Right. Oh, we spoke about the interVLAN for internet, right? And I forgot that. Allow me, because I don't happen to. I don't happen to have my big rack, as I told you before. But see, when I go to a one of those profiles in the VLAN wiring section, if I have the router, maybe I went too fast from one page to the other. When I go in one of those broadcast domains, but for NDI, this is my VLAN 20, see that little button? You have the internet access off, on, you know, slider. Yep. And when you have the NETGEAR PR460X router, member of that site, this is how you can actually very, very easily action that. And wherever you are, even if you are at a venue and your router got to one port, all the NAT, all the static routes, everything is totally automated. And you get internet for your vMix, you get internet for your streaming, you get internet when you want, where you want. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'd rather talk cameras, I'd rather talk switchers, I'd rather talk a lot of things sometimes, but the fact is that, the network is the backbone to everything that we were doing, and it's NETGEAR powers it all. And we didn't even talk about PoE requirements. We didn't talk about any of that other stuff, but it is my favorite problem solver. I thank NETGEAR for doing this and dedicating their time. I thank you for coming to our show. Very excited. I can't wait for, the next few hours. I can download the latest Engage and, all the other good stuff coming. So thank you again, Glenn from Broadfield. That's it for me. Any last words?
Yeah, no, thank you, Glenn. And I wish you all, Broadfield, a very successful and happy NDI month. And we at NETGEAR are all fans. Actually, I can speak on behalf of the NETGEAR AV group, from system engineering to engineers to business people that are listening to us. So keep going. You are doing a wonderful job. And it's not only in the US that you are famous. It's all over the world. I'm traveling the world in Asia and everywhere. And NDI, the NDI month, the NDI November is always visible everywhere. So continue, because you are the only ones doing it, and you are doing it right.
Thank you.
NETGEAR AV has revolutionized switch configuration with its innovative AV-OS, a profile-based system built into every AV switch. This cutting-edge approach dramatically reduces setup time while ensuring precise configurations in just a fraction of the time it once required. Now, the full power of AV-OS and so much more is within your reach with NETGEAR Engage, a centralized user-friendly application. This free tool supports NETGEAR AV switches, pro routers, and Wi-Fi 7 access points, making network management effortless and efficient. And the best part? It's completely free. Download NETGEAR Engage today. Learn more at netgear.com/engage.
All right, and thank you to Laurent for joining us and giving us that great demo on Engage. Absolutely, if you have an NETGEAR M4250 switch, go and check out the Engage software and some of those new features that are available. We do want to just give everybody a reminder. We're going to put the link to the NETGEAR Academy on the screen here. So if you want to check that out, you can do that as well. That is totally free. We here at NDI November, I've taken the courses. They are very easy to understand while giving a lot of great information. And we want to kind of keep the conversation going with NETGEAR. So next up, we had Jim Bask, another one of our hosts, do an interview with Jesse Miller, who's the CEO of Midtown Video. And they're going to talk about an NDI case study that Jesse helped install. And during this interview, you will hear them talk quite a bit about NETGEAR and how NETGEAR came and saved the day. We always say NETGEAR is our #1 solution to AV over IP. So let's play that interview for you now.
Hey, thank you for joining us for NDI November. In this next segment, we are being joined by Midtown Video to talk about an NDI installation and case study with the Cure project. The Cure project was building a robust, separate, and secure AV network. We invited our friend Jesse Miller from Midtown Video on the show to join us to talk about the Cure project. Hey, Jesse, thank you for joining us for NDI November.
Happy NDI November, Jim. Great to be here.
You have been a guest on our show for every single year that we have hosted NDI November, and we thank you so much for joining us. You always have a different case study, installation, project that you're working on. And the Cure project, when you and I talked about it, was a real interesting case study about how some of these workflows can be used. Can you tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, I should ask you to introduce Midtown Video, and then tell us a little bit about your project with the Cure project.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be to hold the record for most consecutive NDI November appearances. Midtown Video is a boutique broadcast and AV integrator out of Miami, Florida. Our reach is global, do a lot of fun stuff in the Caribbean, New York City, as you see, we get out to California, and broadcast is in our DNA. So when video took to the network and streaming and AV over IP showed up, you know, our team hungrily devoured it, and we got to work on seriously cool projects like this one, Cure NYC. It's over on Park Avenue, and it's been described as a WeWork for medical labs. They have wet labs and dry labs and offices for rent for researchers and practitioners. And one of the coolest parts of this Cure NYC is their world-class venues. They will host forums, they will host lectures and panels, and several of those began to be streamed on the internet. So like when the Clinton Foundation has a major press release or something like that, that's who's going to be renting out one of the venues to teach, announce, communicate with the world.
So Jesse, when Cure NYC comes to Midtown Video, what are some of the challenges that they discuss with you? What is it exactly that they're looking for that led you to create this venue and NDI production environment for them?
I appreciate the question. I should mention that it wasn't directly to Midtown Video. Cure works very tightly with Shoei, a consultant out of NYC, and ASI Signage, an integrator out of Texas. And the two of them found fit to call on Midtown Video to be their broadcast and NDI subject matter expert. And we were honored to do it. And here was the challenge they brought to us. We've got 5 different venues. Each venue has cameras and a mixing console and microphones. And, you know, each individual venue was aiming at streaming to the internet or recording or just tackling the challenge of live AV, live sound in these performance venues. And as you might imagine, sort of the high-end clientele doesn't want to see a messy cabling control booth in each of these venues. So one of the requests was, can we get the AV operator out of the room? And an accompanying request was, couldn't we centralize the control room so that from one central control area, we could sort of handle all of the different simultaneous events going on in these venues? And then they added an extra challenge. We want to be future-proof. We want to be streaming in 4K. So here's how our alliance between Shoei, ASI Signage, and Midtown Video approached it. First, fiber optic cable. Multi-mode fiber was ran from the proposed control room on the 2nd floor to the basement, where there's a venue and their IDF closet, also to the 12th floor, also to their penthouse, where these other venues were staged. We adopted NETGEAR's M4350 series of network switches so that we can separate NDI and Dante and their Crestron NVX AV over IP system and create separate VLANs so that the traffic was segmented. And critically, as a healthcare facility, their network security is top priority.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Even more than audio visual, if you can believe that. Not for me, but for them. And so, you know, negotiations were required between the ultimately secure network team and the avant-garde, you know, 4K streaming hungry audiovisual broadcast team. That was one of our first challenges. And we, you know, the M4350 series nailed it. In fact, NETGEAR dispatched one of their engineers to the job site. We got it 95% of the way there, but we wanted the manufacturer to sort of bless the solution, and they helped us out immensely. So we're behind their Fortinet firewall. So all of the network outbound traffic is secure. And thanks to NETGEAR's, you know, simplified AV interface, we could have done it we could have done it another way. You know, we could have used Cisco switches and done console programming, but the audiovisual interface, the UI interface, the NETGEAR switches is spectacular. We segmented all of our different VLANs, and then with their Panasonic PTZ cameras and, you know, their Dante enabled Allen and Heath routers and mixing consoles and this sort of thing, we were able to connect everything through that fiber trunk throughout the building. We're pushing 25 gig fiber on the backbone, and then we had 10 gig network switches at each venue location. So all we needed to do was get the network architecture correctly so that our team on the second floor broadcast control room using TriCaster Vision, you know, their new flagship product, everything was connected over NDI. We're controlling PTZ cameras. We're sending tally signals so that the talent knows which camera to look at. And we sort of liberated them from the point-to-point tyranny of SDI and copper. Now it's NDI, it's fiber, although the last mile might be copper network cables. But it revolutionized the way that they're able to produce content, control their productions, and stream to the internet. They have the capacity to stream 4K live from any of or all of their 5 venues simultaneously.
And I think that's one of the key things that the AV over IP has given you. When we look at the venue, which you provided a photo of here, this is just one example of one of these different 5 venues that they're using throughout this application, where now you have everything set up and running, gives them the ultimate flexibility of the content that they want to produce from that. And then they can bring that in through the centralized control room, where the production team has the consistency of working on that same set of equipment driven by the network, where they really have the total flexibility of creating whatever content they need to create out of Cure NYC, right?
And the production team is concealed. So should there be a flub or a need to address a technical issue, imagine on a live event, a technical issue, you know, that sort of stress can happen secluded away from the event venue. Nobody has to know about it. And because we're AV over IP, because we're NDI, any of these venues could immediately and simply become an overflow, you know, for additional crowd that couldn't make it into the original venue. We can take, you know, 12th floor content and push it out to second floor venue space, things like this. It really opened up the capabilities.
Absolutely. Now, Jesse, I really appreciate you sharing, because this is a great case study of how in that corporate AV space, NDI technology, AV over IP specifically, does give them the complete flexibility to create the content that they need from that centralized control room. I know in past shows, we've talked about installations in schools, across campuses, sports production workflows. Midtown Video really has gotten involved in so many different types of projects. And the constant theme for NDI November has been NDI technology. I'm sure there are a few things about NDI that you like leaning into that really is a true solution, project in, project out, whatever you happen to be working on, right?
Well, it's not unique to Cure, this idea that you don't want to see the audiovisual technicians necessarily in the venue. You know, traditional broadcast, you've got a control room, you got a glass window, and the studio is right on the other side of the window. But lately, broadcast is going remote. You might need geographic distance, whether it's 5 floors or 10 cities or 10 states in between your most advanced control room and wherever the production venue happens to be. And so, as I mentioned, freeing us from the tyranny of point-to-point SDI, once you're on the network, the reality of remote broadcast is closer than ever, or you're in it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here in our New York studio. Jesse is joining us from his offices in Miami. And what was great is, as we're leading up to our show today, you're working with the production team, changing settings on the TriCaster and doing all that great stuff. So when you put all of this technology over the network, it really does give you that flexibility of not only having your NDI sources, your cameras, your PTZs, your presentation materials available from anywhere in the world, but you can have the production itself being driven from anywhere else in the world and vice versa. So Midtown Video can help address all of those needs, help you set up that network. Jesse talked a lot about those NETGEAR switches. Laurent joined us from NETGEAR to talk about NETGEAR and the Engage platform and how easy it is to set up these robust networks and giving you that full production control. If anything that
Laurent sat in on a really interesting panel with us once, not so much a panel, more like an ad hoc meeting. We had a client in Miami who was using bird dog cameras and a TriCaster and his laptop. And, you know, it was critical that a show happened with 3 cameras and a TriCaster. Seemed simple, and a NETGEAR switch. And we just couldn't figure out, you know, between the client and myself, where the issue was happening. He downloaded that NDI analysis tool so that he could see packets in real time. You know, the broadcast engineers, they want to be able to manage every step in the chain. And initially, NDI had a little bit of, we had a little bit of apprehension about it, because once it touched the network, it's like, oh, it belongs to the network guys now. We have to, you know, how are we supposed to snip the packets and identify where the issue was? So NDI released this analysis tool, which was great, although it was a little bit challenging to use in the beginning. We started using it. My client was able to say, like, oh, it's just this PTZ camera that I'm having issues with, but I don't know why. And so we reached out to all of the manufacturers in the chain: Bird Dog for the Bird Dog cameras, VizRT for the TriCaster, NETGEAR for the network switches, and everybody participated. We got the engineers. Laurent attended. We got an engineer from each one of those manufacturers on a Zoom call like this, screen sharing our clients' tools of NDI analysis to really pinpoint, well, here was the quality of the network on this link. Here was the quality of the network on this link. Here's where the packets are making it through. Here's where the bottleneck was. And what the problem turned out to be was the USB to RJ45 dongle, the network device that the laptop was using to analyze the network. Everybody was floored, but relieved, you know, that it wasn't their product that was challenging. The point I mean to make here is that the people who are creating this technology have the end user in mind, so much so that they help us investigate and ferret out these issues. And the great news was, it wasn't any of the audiovisual products that was causing the problem in the first place. But how cool it is that they stand behind their products and their technology this way, that they would help us do that troubleshooting. And when it turned out to be the NIC, and they said, yeah, get yourself a new network interface, everybody was relieved.
Well, I'll tell you, the other great part of that story too is not one of the parties on that call to help troubleshoot that issue had to roll out the white van. So now you can get all the resources available to help get up and running from the best resources available very quickly, very easily. And that is a great argument on getting this stuff on the network and getting your production quality to that next level. And if you have questions about, yes,
if you need somebody on your team that has that has the kind of gravitas to assemble that alliance of heroes to all focus on your production and make sure that it goes perfectly smooth, we've got the AV integrator for you to call. Thanks for showing our card there. It's Midtown Video. We'd love to help you guys achieve ultimate success on your next installation or production.
Awesome. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your project with your NYC. If you have any questions about your NDI production capabilities, you can reach out to Midtown Video, and stay tuned for more NDI November.
Thank you to Jesse for joining us for another NDI November segment. We have one more interview that we did today, and that is going to be with Jim McLean from Matrox. Again, talking about how you can route your video sources across your network and convert them into any kind of video signal that you need. And we had Dan Hirshorn from the Workflow Sales Specialist team interview Jim. So we'll play that for you now.
Hello and welcome to NDI November. I'm your host, Dan Hirschhorn, member of the Broadfield Sales Engineering team. We've got a great show for you today with our longtime partner from Matrox Video, who've been in business for about 50 years, Broadfield for 40 plus years, and a fruitful relationship between the two companies for over 25 years. So really excited to introduce Jim McLean from the Matrox team. Jim, how are you?
Dan, I'm doing great, and thank you for having me today. Excited to chat about some NDI workflows and challenges and solutions with you.
Awesome. So can you give us a quick overview of the new Matrox Vion and what makes it such a significant addition to the Matrox Video lineup and where it fits into the existing Matrox ecosystem?
Absolutely, sounds great. Vion is a flexible multi-channel IP gateway. Instead of being locked into a single IP standard or even multiple IP islands, Vion is part of the critical infrastructure needed to convert, process, and distribute high-quality video. And relative to really why we're here, NDI November, NDI is obviously one of those IP formats, along with 2110, SDI, and others.
So how does Vion help end users bridge NDI with other IP standards?
I like to think of this, as a customer workflow. Vion is a bidirectional conversion hub. It'll take NDI input and convert it to, again, 2110, SRT, other IP standards. But, for example, if you had a high quality NDI stream coming from a camera or a graphics workstation and had a requirement to translate that into your 2110 broadcast environment, and simultaneously output that via your SDI infrastructure, Vion, that's what we're built for in the broadcast world. And what does that mean? You can leverage all of the existing equipment that you have and move it throughout your IP infrastructure.
Beautiful. So when you look at today's live production environments, whether in broadcast, events, corporate AV, so what kind of challenges are creators facing that Vion can directly help solve?
Traditionally, people think of converters as single-purpose devices, and there are a lot of converters out in the market that are essential to all of the types of customer projects that you just mentioned. But Vion provides simultaneous encoding and decoding for multiple streams. You're not locked into a specific one-to-one conversion.
Super interesting. Yeah, I just want to call out how versatile of a product this makes it in terms of having the options and flexibilities for the different protocols. It is really a compelling sort of discussion point for customers sending video anywhere and doing almost anything with video at this point. So you guys are ahead of the curve on this and continue to stay nimble and agile in your development and as you roadmap out here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think I see you've brought up a chart that illustrates that. I like to think of Vion as almost any IP source in and any IP source out. It's probably a lot to process in the time we have here together. Obviously, anybody who's in this meeting sees this content, feel free to call Broadfield, feel free to reach out to Matrox, and we can provide much more in-depth support and understanding of the challenges you're looking to solve.
Yeah, Jim, and I'll also shout out that my sales engineering team here is an extension of the Matrox sales and technical teams. So Feel free to reach out to us directly with any questions on how Matrox could enhance or fit into your existing workflows, or if you'd just like to know more about the product line, we're happy to start that conversation. And we work closely, as I mentioned, for 20 plus years with Matrox to make sure that these solutions are being delivered and are working to our end users and through our dealers. So, treat myself and my team as an extension of the Matrox team. We are here to help. We are here to start those conversations and really guide you through to see what those possibilities are.
And from a Matrox standpoint, know that we support Broadfield, and we'll support Broadfield's customers with whatever their requirements are.
Now, for integrators and end users, Jim, what sort of advice would you give about planning a workflow that supports multiple protocols?
Oftentimes, those multiple protocols have just sprung up. When you think of old school broadcast, it's all SDI infrastructure. There's been a lot of movement towards 2110, and there are complete 2110 broadcast facilities out there. But the reality is that most of them are hybrids, and it's not all entirely planned as if you were building a new facility from scratch. So you need versatile solutions, and the reality is you're going to have multiple IP formats that are out there, which makes devices like Vion super valuable. And the conversion between baseband and IP, whether that IP is 2110 or IPMX, we're seeing a lot of that. And one of the things that Matrox has been known for is building an IP ecosystem, and Vion is a portion of that, but there are other solutions as well. For example, if you were looking to put, let's say, broadcast 2110 content on an SDI or HDMI monitor, we have a line of products called Convert IP that will do just that. Like Vion, they're bidirectional. So if you wanted to bring baseband content into a 2110 environment, the Matrox Convert IP line is that's what it's built for.
Beautiful. So Jim, I actually pulled up a workflow chart here. Maybe this is something that you can help us sort of envision where the Vion sits inside of a traditional broadcast workflow.
Okay. Thank you for making that larger. As an IP bridge, an IP gateway, we are well suited for being the conversion point, the bidirectional conversion point between your cameras, your vision mixers, monitoring and display solutions as well, but also to take that content across a facility or even over the open internet to another facility, and it doesn't have to be open internet. It could be dedicated links as well. What that might mean is that you want to take your PTZ camera that is perhaps NDI, output it over the internet via SRT, and receive it either in the cloud or at an additional broadcast facility via SRT. And on the SRT end, our Monarch Edge encoders would take that signal and distribute it out over an SDI network. And that'd be at the remote facility.
Super interesting. And keep in mind, this is just one of a plethora of ways that you can spin this wheel and sort of utilize this technology. So if you have workflow questions, you're not sure where the Vion sits in or could fit into an existing workflow, please reach out to us at Broadfield as well as the Matrox team. We're happy to connect you and work through this and provide documentation as needed for whatever format protocols are needed in a specific workflow. This is a flexible product that we're excited to work with, and we're excited to work with the Matrox team to flesh anything out for you.
And that's a really good point, because as almost anything IP to almost anything IP, and the workflow possibilities are endless, which is why it's really valuable to speak either with the experts at Broadfield, and actually that's a great starting point. Start with the experts at Broadfield, and Matrox will support them as needed.
Beautiful. Just trying to wrap things up a little bit. Just curious, Jim, what excites you most about where IP video and NDI are headed, and how is Matrox Video positioned to lead that in the future?
Interesting. Well, we're very much focused on promoting open standards. Our solutions that support 2110, IPMX, and NDI, along with our longtime history with baseband solutions, whether that's SDI or HDMI, I think positions us well to support whatever customer environment exists or is being planned. And again, I like to think of us as an IP ecosystem company, and we have the tools to support that.
Beautiful. Well, I think that really leads us into the end here. Just a heads up that the Matrox Vion is shipping now. So like we've been saying over and over, please reach out to your Broadfield team here. Happy to help you get quoted and get this gear out into your customers. Jim, any parting thoughts here on NDI before I let you go?
NDI is everywhere, whether it was planned or unplanned in an environment. Matrox has tools to help integrate that with other IP protocols and broadcast standards like 2110 and SDI.
Beautiful, and totally agreed. Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of NDI November. We've got plenty more content coming this month, so keep your eyes to the ground and ears to the ground as well for more interesting NDI content. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Broadcast installations often span different standards: NDI, SD2110, SRT, and more. Managing these flows in parallel can be challenging, but Vion streamlines the process. It's a compact, multi-channel, 4K-capable IP video gateway for media processing and conversion. Vion provides flexible, low-latency, multi-channel encoding, decoding, transcoding, and cross-conversion of the IP video formats and codecs you need. That means better flexibility, streamlined integration, and true IP agility. Vion. Connect your IP islands.
Thank you for joining us for another day of NDI November. Just a friendly reminder, if you're watching on any platform other than Crowdcast from NDINovember.com, please make sure to register on NDINovember.com to be entered in for your chance to win one of our prizes. We have a lot more great content coming up, including tomorrow. Jim Bask will be sitting down with Mike Bergeron from Panasonic to talk about their PTZ cameras and their NDI workflows. Then on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, we will be joined by Dan Mial from Bird Dog. On Wednesday, I will be doing an interview with David Doku from Canon. And then on Thursday, we're going to have our NDI Advisory Board roundtable conversation. Lots more shows coming up. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you tomorrow.